In this episode, we have on my dear friend Jenny Reyneke from all the way from South Africa. She is an inspiring landscape nature artist. She's a poet. She's deeply intuitive and very heart centered.
You're listening to the Red Couch Rebels, a safe, comfy space for vulnerability and self-growth. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Erin.
We are seekers and self-advocates.
Yeah, we're not your doctors.
Or your therapists.
No, we're just fellow seekers on our own journeys of self-discovery.
Explore your inner rebel with us.
Let's sink in. I met Jenny Reyneke in a Facebook group 14 years ago. And there have been times where we haven't talked for a couple of years, but it's one of those friendships where when one of us is able to reach out and the other one can receive it, it's like right there, like our connection and our, what did you call that heart space is available to us whenever we reach out. Yeah
goodness. And because of the fact that I'm so sort of cut off from sort of social interaction, like as in physical interaction where we are here in the desert, I've really found that those connections that I have with my faraway friends, I call them, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful friendships and sharing on a level that you wouldn't ordinarily share face to face. It's so weird. I think perhaps you and Jen have that openness, but but I kind of find it quite difficult to communicate and connect on the level that it's, I think because I'm not used to kind of hearing my own voice speak. I generally really quite prefer the virtual interactions and those virtual connections and those very strong and amazing connections that you actually make. That's now part of who we can, how we can become, how we can evolve, is to get that kind of energy without the burden of the physical. It's weird. Can't really explain it.
And I totally agree with that. And another thing that I appreciate about my faraway friends is that the pace of the conversation is much slower. When you and I are corresponding, I have time to sit with what you've just shared with me and really feel into it and let my life show me how that's connected, and I have time to respond and think through my response, and it's almost like in that journaling process of how much is uncovered when you have time to write at a slower speed versus a text or an in-person conversation where it's much, be with it, listen, digest, and then spit back out so quickly. The intimacy there is, I think, that lends to it as well.
Yeah, and I think in the sort of the physical sense, what I find is that when I'm connecting on a physical level, I'm so worried about what I say. I don't really listen necessarily to what the other person says, and in a virtual context, you can really and truly digest and absorb the wisdom and the beauty that comes out of a conversation that's written, or even I think we focus. Just an example of how we are communicating here on your beautiful red couch is the focus is on the conversation. It's a mindset thing. There are no other distractions. This is what we're here for, to connect, to talk, to kind of listen. I think in our everyday spaces, we forget not only to listen to what our heart is saying, but what other hearts are saying to us. And this is one thing that I've really learned being away from people. We moved here to the Kalahari Desert towards the end of 2020, we were still in lockdown. I don't know whether you were still in lockdown, and
Yes.
our lockdown was actually over, but I kind of implemented a sort of a self-enforced lockdown, and I cut myself off completely from people, and and in a way, I'm so glad I did, because I so needed it. Erin, you and I had that paint with me session
I
where
was just talking to Jenny about that.
that was
Yeah.
the last time that I actually, it was just shortly thereafter where I kind of imposed my complete lockdown from everybody, and I started exploring. Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's amazing how we really do need to trust. We really do need to trust time, and we need to trust um, that voice in us that says, you know what, follow this path, because at the end of the day, if you trust that voice in you, there is such an amazing purpose that emerges from it. I don't regret the last 3 years that I've been very much insular, very much isolated, because it's taught me so much, and it's taught me to kind of explore, you, as you say, that inner voice, kind of get to know it, kind of hear that voice.
The
Oh,
inner rebel.
Mhm.
yeah, I had quite a chuckle about trying to figure out what you guys meant about that, and I needed to write down the definition that you'd said, and then it just made so much sense, and I'd love to know why you call it the rebel. I just love it.
Well, I don't we're trying really hard not to completely define it for people because we want to hear how other people define this experience with themselves, right? And it's we know that it feels a little different to each person. And in
Yeah,
our first episode, Jenny and I talked about our own rebel stories where we have very different rebel stories, right? So that's part of the fun for us is hearing how people connect to that word or resist that word because
Yeah.
there are people that definitely will resist the idea of a rebel
a
or a
rebel. Yeah,
rebellion.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Well, I I found it completely illuminating. I kind of, I've always been the black sheep in my family. I've always kind of been the black sheep. I've always done things differently and haven't kind of followed the norm. So when I thought of my inner voice as this rebel, I kind of, like got myself feeling as if I was posturing and kind of, yeah, you know, and
That's lovely.
yeah, no, because I've only recently actually given myself permission to kind of identify with that inner rebel or the inner voice. Um, um, I was saying to you that I began my red journal at the beginning of this year. And the red journal was a gift that an amazing collector of my art and just an amazing woman. But she actually was searching for me for over 2 years. And she knew me as she was introduced to me 10 years ago as Charlie, because that was the name that I gave myself when I was at boarding school and at school. And I met her through a friend, one of my boarding school friends. Anyway, so she was searching for this artist, Charlie Reyneke, and never came across me. And then eventually she found me. And at the beginning of this year, she bought one of the paintings that are closest to my heart that I was working on that actually went through me from the time I think I began the painting about 3 or 4 months after you and I kind of had our paint with me session. and I've been working on it, and and it's been evolving, and it's just kind of, there was so much passion in that work. It took me almost 2.5 years, I would say, to actually
Oh, wow.
paint, but it wouldn't have been painted if not for that connection with my beautiful friend. Anyway, but she has this habit of spoiling me. I'm not one that spoil. She spoils me. She will buy me neon varnish. Like she knows that I can't get chocolate here in the desert because it melts and it gets that white horrible stuff. So she'll send me a bottle, like a massive bottle of Nutella, and like she's just the most considerate, beautiful,
Oh.
generous soul that you could ever meet. And the conversations that she has with me have kind of taught me how I need to talk to myself, because
Mm.
often we do not speak kindly to ourselves. Well, I haven't. So I feel as if I've begun, and she actually gave me this red journal. She didn't only give me one journal; she gave me four. The most beautiful, the most beautiful, like the one leather bound, beautifully leather bound with this beautiful jade
Oh.
stone in it, and then another one that's
Mm.
got like whatever you believe is possible. And she's just this kind of person. But her influence in my life, and another friend who lives in Australia that I also met about 10 or 11 years ago virtually. Um, we started a kind of a truth journal together. She's going through some stuff, so we kind of truth journal together. So we share this virtual kind of journaling space, and the wisdoms and the insights that come out of there, and the affirmations. Other women, my circle is at the moment over and above the trees that I go and talk to. My circle is my faraway friends who are teaching me how to speak to myself, and it's the most precious gift, because gosh, goodness gracious, you girls must stop me.
You're everything you're saying is
Is
so wonderful,
but
yes,
but I
yes.
have
and I
I
can
have
resonate so much with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just amazing how, when you speak to yourself as if you are your own best friend, how the conversation changes, and the power in actually writing it down so that you can go and revisit it. You know, my mom always used to joke. She used to say, madness is not talking to yourself; it's actually answering. Well, I'm absolutely insane at the moment because I talk to myself, and I answer myself, and we have these yeah, we have these conversations which have liberated my life and liberated the way I live, liberated the way I focus my energy, and give myself actually room to I give myself room to focus, but I also give myself room to kind of just be Jen, just be. You're all right. You're enough. It's been quite amazing, and it's very difficult but it's so interesting. In the beginning, it was so weird when I started these dear me letters. Um, they were very kind of, yeah. Now I don't even think I've written a dear me letter. That it feels as if the whole journal is now becoming a dear me conversation, and both me and I, and it sounds so weird, but both me and I are kind of enjoying it, and kind of we becoming aligned. That's the thing. My physical being is coming alive and coming aligned to my inner being. I'm getting stuff done, girls. Like I would never have thought myself, yo, I can't get over how much I'm getting done. It's just amazing.
Like what? Give me an example.
Um, oh, it's a silly thing. Like our house burnt down. Our house burnt down. I can't even remember. Maybe 6, 7 years ago, and I've saved a whole lot of the burnt journals and stuff that I'd always been saying to myself, goodness, I want to do something with them. Anyway, so then the fire came, burnt them down, so I only have the dregs. But just a small example, I've been carrying these things around with me, and they've been in their box, and and I keep on saying I want to sort them out, I want to sort them out. But I've actually since like for the last 2 months, I started actually sorting them out. I started collecting them. I've actually created artworks out of them. I'm taking them and I am I'm giving them new body. All of these dregs, the things that we should have actually thrown away, but they were precious to me. Um, they are actually becoming art in their own right, and I've got a whole lot of glue, and I've got a whole lot of sticks, and I have a whole lot of stuff that I'm rebuilding my psyche, or I'm rebuilding these memories, and that it's actually they're actually quite beautiful. Um, well, they are to me, but they actually are beautiful. No, I'm sorry, they are beautiful because they've got this texture and the substance and this weirdness, which is the rebel in me just loves it.
Can you introduce us to the first memories you have of your inner rebel? Do you have any early memories of that voice coming through to you?
It feels as if my inner voice has always been there, but I haven't necessarily paid attention. Um, but as a child, I was always running away. Not, I wasn't actually running away. I was wandering away. But it was very worrying for my mother because I would take these long walks in the night in South Africa, and I would go for a swim, in the public swimming pool or whatever. I was forever running away and going to the nature reserves and kind of just disappearing, not thinking that I was doing anything wrong or anything, but of course caused endless concern for my dear mom, who was always sending the police out to find me and stuff like that. That happened on, I think, 2 occasions. But but that voice has always been something I have sought and something that I have treasured, and I've generally found it in forests and in nature, and especially with trees. When I was 15 years old, I was at boarding school, and one particular evening, I could not explain it, but I was distraught. I was absolutely in agony. I was in tears. I was in the hostel bathroom and I was sobbing, and I had absolutely no reason why, but I knew that I needed to reach out to my father. It was connected to my father. Now, when we were at boarding school, there were only specific times that we could call our parents. But I managed to, and we weren't actually allowed to call our parents, but I managed to get the matron. She allowed me to call my father that morning. And I said to him, Dad, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know why, but I love you and I miss you. And he said to me, Jane, if you ever need me, you must go and find a tree. And that afternoon, I was singing at a wedding at 4 o'clock, 4:10, and I knew that there was something desperately wrong. And when I went up, my father had actually passed away. And his last words to me were, and he was 45 years old, and his last words to me were, Jen, if you need someone, if you need me, go find a tree. And I kind of, because he died when he was 45, I personally also had a life expectancy of when I reach 45, I'm also going to die. And a beautiful story. At that time, I had donated a painting to a group of yoga. It was, yeah, there were these wonderful yoga ladies. I didn't do yoga, but they did yoga, and they wanted to raise some money, and I donated a painting to them. And in exchange for this painting, they rewarded me for a yoga retreat in Michalisburg, and it was my 45th birthday. And I said to my hubby, I'm off. I'm going to go to this yoga retreat because I need to. Like it was, I was 45 and I wanted to think about my father. And I got
Mm.
into my car. Her name was Spirit. Her name was Spirit. She was this black
Love it.
mirror. And I got into Spirit and off I went to the yoga retreat, but I got hopelessly lost. Hopelessly lost. I never arrived at the yoga retreat. I never was in any direction going in any correct direction. Um, but my road, my river roads took me to the Sunland Baobab, which is 16 hours in completely the other direction. And it's this massive, beautiful, exquisite baobab. And I arrived, and I kept on seeing this sign. And this was one of the journals that were actually burnt. But I wrote a whole journal around this trip to this baobab. And it was, you know what? As long as I live, I can never get enough of painting that spirit, that magic that is a baobab. And
You
I
know
was,
what she's talking
and,
about.
and
No, describe Jenny doesn't know what you're talking about.
oh, Jenny, darling, oh my word.
Please enlighten me. I'm excited.
Okay, so oh my goodness. Okay, my first experience of coming across the Sunland baobab, it was so big. I walked right past it. I didn't see it. Didn't realize it was a tree. Um, and it's oh my goodness, it's amazing. So anyway, I get to the Sunland baobab. I will tell you now about the tree, but um, and I managed to rent a little tent, an A-frame tent. Just beneath this tree, there were 6 or 7. It's massive, Jen. It is so huge. Like that one, it actually fell. The yeah, yeah, it's actually fallen, the tree. And the caretaker of the tree actually let me know that it had fallen because when I was there, and it happened actually on the day of the fire. Our house burnt down, and the one limb of the beautiful Sunland baobab actually fell on that same day, and it was actually Freedom Day. We celebrate Freedom Day in South Africa on the day that the one limb of the baobab fell, and on the morning when our house burnt down. But anyway, so all of these miracles kind of happen around. I believe in miracles. I'm absolutely convinced that miracles find me. And there's no such thing for me as chance. I believe that it's all miraculous, and there's purpose in everything. But this baobab, mm, there were these sun orbs, these orbs around this tree. When I looked up, and I could actually climb into the belly of the tree, and I'd never mourned my father. I'd never really mourned my father in that I cried. But I climbed into the belly of this tree, and it was like being in the womb of that love. It was the most I cannot explain. It was the most miraculous experience of my life, and the most I felt as if I was not only in that tree, but my better self was there with me, and that I was kind of looking at myself and seeing this very insecure, very overweight, very like not knowing, not loving you don't love you. But that was when I started loving me. I gave myself permission to say, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And it's all right. It's all right. You're not going to die tomorrow. You've got lots of loving to do. And that, I believe that was, to answer your question, Erin, I think that was the very first realization that although the voice had been with me, that was when I acknowledged it.
How powerful.
That's a beautiful story.
Hmm.
Oh, but the tree's no more, hey. But anyway, there's
But
fortunately
it
there.
lived long enough it lived long enough to serve that purpose, right?
De-
Maybe, you think of the people who are passing on and they wait till their last family member arrives before they pass. That's coming to mind for me. Like that was part of its purpose was to be there for your moment with yourself.
yeah. Well, the her. Uh, yeah, I don't know if she was a no. I think the tree was a he. No, I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. But the fact of its falling inspired another trip where I went to find with my henny. We actually went on a trip, and we said, let's go find all the baobabs, the great trees of the north. And he found the Sigoli baobab, which I've actually just painted. Um, so yes, it's like those seasons that you were talking about, Erin. There's always it's everything is a circle for me. There's no beginning, there's no end to our experience and our evolution. It's so right. It's so right. Um, so I agree with you. Like there's a purpose to the events in our life, and most of the time they're actually incredibly miraculous. Yeah.
There's so much that you're sharing around the loving energy of your rebel that really connects to what I've wanted to nurture and have been practicing and playing with nurturing with my rebel. Um, and I haven't put like this specific experience around it. So I love hearing your story, but I'm really curious, how long have you been painting and how long have you been painting trees and nature? Has it always been tied back to nature and like that connection to voice? Because it sounds like you painted before 45, right?
So in 1998 was when I had my first exhibition, and it was very much an exhibition. Yoch, the ugly paintings. Goodness gracious me. Oh my word! I'm so ashamed of those early works. I were terrible paintings. there were things like, I was posturing, I was trying to be the artist and imagining that I was the artist and that I was the artist. I think so. So all of those works up until the realization where I knew that I'm actually not an artist. I'm actually just a medium. I'm just lucky that that art allows me to create. I just make myself present, and that's the difference. So the works before 1998, all of those exhibitions and those things that I did, I think probably the only worthwhile series of that was perhaps the soliloquy series and the secret, which was a song that I sang to my children. But other than that, they don't feel to me as if they have voice, those works. Although people love them, but from the Baobab trip, um, my 45th birthday, that's where my art, I allowed nature to speak to me, and or I conversed with nature. I wasn't just present. Um, I kind of feel as if it was a two-way street then, and that's where my art changed.
So you're a medium and you're channeling and bringing the energy through, right? So that I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that
That
your
is
process as an artist is just opening yourself to what needs to come through.
absolutely, absolutely. Erin, a lot of people say to me they're not artists. They can't paint. They can't do this. They can't draw a stick figure. And I feel as if I've got a little bit of what is the word, imposter syndrome, because I honestly don't believe that. I mean, I make myself available. The art is there. The message is there. And all you need to do is you show up, you make yourself available, say, hey, I'm here, and let me speak through you, or you speak through me, or whatever. But when I do that, then the art is good. As soon as I want to be the artist and want to impress my vision on the canvas, then there's just absolutely there's something missing there. But as soon as I let go and I just understand that I'm there, then the magic happens. And I think and I would love to say apparently I'm actually a very good teacher when it comes to art, and because they have a lot of fun. Um, and I've seen it, like the amazement when I've just painted with a group of people and just said to them, stop saying whatever you're saying in your head. Stop it. Just stop it. You're not an artist. You have absolutely nothing to do with this. You're just making yourself available for the art and that message and that creativity just to work through you. You're a weaver. You're just weaving. And and you're using what is already there. If you're not there, if you don't show up, that message won't be communicated. That's your only obligation, to show up.
Maybe you two can chat more as artists. I need to use the restroom as informal as we are today.
It's perfect. I love everything that you're sharing in regard to your process, and it's speaking to me because I was really, really into art and creating different things when I was younger, like high school. I mean, even when I was a child,
Mm.
but then like got into high school and did a lot of art, and college did a lot of art and painting. And of course, it was different because it's like they were assignments, but I felt like I was trying to find myself while
Mm,
doing it, right? And exploring different mediums and you know learning a ton about art history and looking for meaning, exploring the meaning with what I was creating, even if they were just assignments, right? And as I've progressed in my career, I've taken on like commercial art. So my career path, and day job is a graphic designer, brand strategy. I create visuals, logos, things like that, for individuals for compensation, right? And
mm,
so it's just been really interesting for me as I've explored creativity and coming back to art and doing it from a place where it's coming from me
mm.
versus coming from and creating for someone else. And
Yeah.
there's this dynamic that I really struggle with. How even creating the logo for Red Couch Rebels, I'm in this space of just like churning, and I'll send it to Erin, and I find myself waiting for her to be like, I love it. And it's like,
To
well, if it's
justify.
art, yeah,
Mm,
justify it.
mm.
Like
Yeah.
if it's coming from here, why do I need that validation? So what you're saying as far as just releasing all the things in your head, I mean, I get it, and man, that's hard.
It
It's
really
hard to.
is. It really is. And it's trial and error. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
The trick is to genuinely lose yourself in that. Just lose yourself. Lose you for that time, to
yeah.
allow that message to kind of come to you. Um, but it takes practice. It's hard to do because we get in the
Yeah.
way. We really do get in the way of art, and I think of truth. I think and of authenticity. We get in the way, and
Yeah.
because we feel, I don't know. We have this misguided opinion that um, our purpose is so linked to who we are and our destiny, and is so linked to us doing something right.
Yeah. It's what we
Bullshit.
create. It's what we
Bull.
produce. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
If we are so way off our purpose and our destiny, and whatever you want to call it, your voice, your authenticity, your truth, you step into it, girl. You step into it. You make yourself present. It's there. It's there already. It's all there. That's all you need. You just have to step into it, and you can learn how to swim, carry on. But we fool ourselves into thinking that it's such hard work, and it's
Yeah.
a free gift. It's a free gift. It's there. It's already there. It's amazing, and that's what I've learned from my red journal this year. So I have this. I was incredibly worried about how we were going to make a living and how we were going to be sustainable. And like we're building this little, um, we call it a pondoki. So the meaning of a pondoki is basically a dwelling built out of found objects and found material, and it's like a little shanty, or what would you call it, a little shack. Anyway,
Sure.
so we've yeah. So we've been building this little bundoki, and um, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But in the beginning, it wasn't, because in the beginning we didn't have water, and we didn't have
Didn't
a
have water,
roof.
you didn't have a roof, you didn't have walls.
Exactly. Yeah. But what was the most important?
Yeah, well, in the desert, I will agree, yes.
We had nothing. Yeah, it was hysterical. But and very hot, and it was hot. It was 43, 44, 45 degree weather, and I remember thinking, oh my word, what on earth have we done? But we did it. And what was I going to say? Okay, around this, Yeah, but I hated this place. I hated it. I thought, my goodness, what on earth? I would like sob in the morning, thinking, what on earth is
Mm.
this? Is this going to be my future? Is this where I have to be for the rest of my life in this little pundoki? And I don't know. Something happens, boy, when you kind of just let be and be present, that love comes into the equation, and you realize that you can make something out of nothing, and it can
Mm.
actually become, and that's what makes it beautiful, is that your effort, your choice to make it worthwhile makes it worthwhile. But I started this journal, and at the beginning of the year, really worried about how we were going to kind of continue building this loving place that is now, your home is your castle. It's becoming ours,
Hmm.
and it's beautiful. It's got such love and such little things, and I love it. Um, but I imagine that everything I need to live on purpose, like, we say that we need purpose, but actually we need to live on purpose. We've got to make
Mm.
our every day, we've got to live it on purpose. But everything that I need to live on purpose, and which includes my art, which includes my connections, which includes my relationships, which includes my willingness and my wanting to be social, and ev- everything that I'm sort of concerned about is, and I imagined all of these things, and I imagined this mighty river. Now we live just a stone's throw away from the Orange River, which is a massive river that, so I imagine everything that I need to live my life on purpose is actually like this river, and it's flowing, and it's flowing in every, and it's strong, and it's flowing steadily, and it's rich, and it's full, and it's flowing onto the banks of what I call my opportunities and my priorities. and
I
that's
love
I
it.
that's
love it.
and that's what I journal about. And this, but it's been so wonderful. Um, just having this, just seeing everything that I do as this tree. And all I have to do is I just need to trust in the river, and I just need to tend to that opportunity. That's all I've got to do. Give it some water, give it some time, speak to it, love it, and
Mhm.
identify it, and make sure that. And I've got this forest growing, boy. It's like in my journal. I wish I could actually show you. Like, all my planning is like, I do these funny little trees all over the place, and that's my to do list. If you're not an opportunity tree or a priority tree, I'm sorry, you're not getting done that
Not
day.
on the list.
I think this is something I need to pick up from you.
Right.
This sounds lovely, and it's for me. What I'm taking away from your sharing here is just this idea of slowing down, and I know connecting to nature does that for me. I will walk and notice the trees and talk to the trees.
Oh my gosh. So,
Oh,
okay, let me share this with you. So you can put a photo with your contact, and Jenny's contact on my phone is an image of an old man, and he's leaning over a flower, and it says, "I'm sorry I'm late. I was telling the trees how beautiful they are."
oh, that's so amazing. Yeah,
Because
no.
every time we're meeting,
I'm always late.
she's always late, always. So when I saw that image, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's Jenny!" It's
So
Gina
yeah.
miss.
Yes, yes, you two. I knew you two would connect as
Yeah.
artists and as nature lovers and as like such kind and loving people. I just knew
Oh,
you
I'm
two
not.
would
I'm such an old,
vibe.
craggy, grumpy old thing.
I'm not getting that. No.
You haven't showed us that side of your rebel yet.
Oh, no, I can be full of shit, eh? Yo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you came on, Jenny and I were chatting about that I am like stepping in this time into this time of surrender, and words are so important. So like I've gone through these spaces of allowing before. I've gone
Mm,
through spaces in the winter. My intention was to be with the unfolding, and just in the last few weeks it is like transitioned into this time of surrender. And it's not a time of surrender out of desperation. It's a time of surrender out of faith
mm,
and peace and a knowing that something is coming that I can't even imagine. Like I can't control my way there because I cannot imagine it into being. So when you
yes.
talked about your process with the canvas, it feels very close to like what this is feeling like in my life of this surrender. I just want to show up and be present, follow the nudges, have the space in my life to hear first of all, and then to have the space to move in that and the freedom to move in that direction where I'm being guided from
Mm,
core, from sacred, from source, whatever your words are. Like, that part of
yes.
it gets confusing to people, but whatever is pulling me, even if it's the rebel, I don't know, there's something pulling me forward and saying just let go of those ego driven plans. Like we're starting a business, right? We're literally starting a business, and Jenny and I are just talking about how egocentric and masculine to sit down and think that you're going to write out a plan and this is how it's going to happen and this is the timeline and these are the
Mm,
numbers, right? Like, and we're discovering for ourselves because there's not a great model for this, for a
mm,
feminine style of business or a feminine embodied way of moving through life. Like what does that look like for our business to proceed? And it's, I think we're surrendering to that with the dreams and
Yeah.
hope and intention, definite intention. But I just love how your work at the canvas translates like to how people can translate that into their own lives, no matter what canvas they're working on.
Yeah.
absolutely. Gosh, and I would so encourage it. I try and convey what I've learned to my daughters. Um, and they do get it. I learn so much more from them than I'm sure I teach them. But this one thing, um, to actually just the one thing, you are you are where you need to be right now. You are absolutely where you need to be, and everything that you need to walk and to prosper and to grow is already there for you. And it's not because of who you are or what you are. It's there. It's absolutely there. All you have to do is show up. That's all. I really believe that. And it's not always easy to kind of let go, because letting go is also intentionality. It's also being intentional. It's a choice that you make. Although I don't know if I've actually conquered the letting go yet. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I think I may be sort of in the flow. I'm getting there, but I'm still hanging on to my life thingies, boy,
Right.
with all my mind.
Mhm.
No, so and you know what? I'm talking shit. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, seriously, I'm not there yet. I'm in the flow right now. I haven't quite learned to let go to the extent that
Yeah.
I would love my daughters to let go. I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
but I'm having fun. I really am having fun, um, and I wonder. I think it's so liberating to learn how to love yourself. It's so liberating,
Mm.
and it's such a beautiful relationship.
As you were talking, I was thinking, what do we need to let go of to fully love ourselves?
Let go of that recriminating voice, that
Mm.
taskmaster voice in us, um, which is so easy to do. Like you make these lists of things that you to do for yourself in the day. I don't know. I do. I used to. Um, and then if you don't achieve all of those things, then you beat yourself up because you didn't do everything that you said that you were going to do. And you don't ever, although I do now, kind of celebrate the things that you have achieved. I think we have to let go of that taskmaster voice in us, um, to kind of really prosper and kind of really live on purpose. Um, is get that noise out of your head, just and out of your heart and out of your mind and out of your dreams. All of those things that those expectations, those self expectations, not what anybody else thinks that you supposed to be doing with your day, your expectations. You need to be kinder there. And that's where I think I could also learn to let go, because I still have that voice in my head. She pops in, and she says, "Yeah, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and you're not doing enough here and you're not doing enough there, and you really should connect with Erin." And yeah, you know, and all of those burden things and those conversations. What do you feel, Jen? What do you think? What do we
I
need to let
think,
go of?
yeah, I think it does come back to the self expectations and, like you're saying, the taskmaster. Um, and and I can't remember if we were talking about this before, or if it was a conversation Aaron and I had before we jumped on. But the idea of, like, we think we can plan and coordinate, right? And I mean, there's the idea of manifestation, right? But I think it is just the allowing of stepping into that river that you've both kind of spoke to. And I
Mm.
loved what you said earlier, that river road, um, when you went off to the yoga retreat and ended up at a completely different place, but exactly where you were meant to be. And I think, I mean, in this world, we're still going to plan. We're still going to
Mm.
have those expectations of self. And some of that is just, I think, reframing the choosing of perspective.
Yes,
What is,
yes.
when can you be more compassionate with self? And for me, I think this is where, you know, the world can say, all right, you need to do this in order to have this sense of success, or to get, the money to make a living. And um for me, the rebel voice is saying, like, how dare you talk to yourself like that? Like, no, you don't do that. And
Yeah,
I get it,
yeah.
and I still love you, and this is gonna take time, and it's not gonna be perfect, and it's gonna be hard. um but one of the other things that you said earlier too that stuck with me was, and this has just been, like, ingrained in me for years. I mean, my life. And I'm not trying to say hard work doesn't produce, but I think for me, so much has been like, you just buckle down, work hard,
Oh,
and
I
things will work
say,
out, right? And there's
yeah.
so much that I think we have to release this control and forcing
Mhm.
Mm.
of what we
Yeah,
want, and
yeah.
lean into the dreaming world a little bit more, lean into the um opportunity
Mm,
in front of
Yeah.
us. I love
Yeah.
that.
So
mhm.
What
do
would you say,
I.
Erin?
What do we have to let what was the question? Reword it for me.
What do we have to let go of in order to fully love ourselves?
I think it goes back to the conversation we had with Karen about my best friend Jenny, my husband Matt, and I went away for my birthday weekend and my of course Erin would choose this for her birthday. I wanted to workshop courageous, loving relationships for my birthday weekend. So I kidnapped them all and dragged them to an Airbnb. And part of the conversation was a discussion about our core selves and that worthiness. Like I'm a very visual, spatial person. So when I'm feeling into this, like the core of who I am feels complete and utterly worthy. And then on the shell of that core is like all of the bullshit that I have experienced, all of the armor that I have
Mm,
picked up in this lifetime, all
yeah.
of the coping mechanisms and survival skills. All of that is like this eggshell on the
Mm,
core of who I am. And sometimes I can just like sink down into my core and like inhale and expand and like that shell just shatters, right? And it's just like I'm just in my holiness. But then life happens, and I bump up against somebody else's wounding and that shell kind of starts forming again, right? So like what do I need to let go of? And what gets in the way of my self-love is that shell of
Yeah.
all that
mm,
shit that's not me.
Yeah.
yeah. Sure. It's quite profound. Wow.
On the way here, I was reflecting on some stuff and just feeling into some hard feelings, letting go of some things, like talking to myself in a different way. Like the inner rebel showed up to support me and help me love me. And I had this feeling of like breaking through into some crust. It was like, I think we have to be willing and not force it, but we have to be willing to kind of just be in the shit.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I so agree with that. Goodness, yeah, you've got to, because I look at the nature around me here. Um, Jenny, we don't have trees here because it's impossible for trees. That's one thing that really, really was very hard about my living here is the fact that the wonderful, amazing trees that I was used to, the tall trees, they don't happen here. Yeah, your trees are kind of bent over, craggy, old ladies scratching the ground and kind of protecting themselves from the northeasterly wind and the sun and everything. They're so close
Yeah.
together and full of thorns, full of thorns. You can't hug them. Um, but but yeah, this place taught me is that you have to kind of give yourself permission to fall apart, to actually die. Like these things, they die. These plants die in the desert, and you look at them and you think there's no way in hell that they will ever blossom. And then they come up with their flowers are three times the size of their own bodies when when
Wow.
when the circumstance just is but you would have sworn that that plant was dead. And then you walk out into the veldt and you see these but that taught me that you kind of have to let yourself, sometimes you have to absolutely let yourself fall apart, and you actually have to die to all of those things, all of that stuff. You've got to kind of allow yourself to not be positive all the time. Kind of go into that deep dark dungeon, man. Get in there, get stuck in there, because your inner voice needs to talk to those things. You can't just,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to sustain a purposeful life if you don't allow yourself to kind of speak to the dark in you. You have to,
Yeah.
because that's where
Well,
your
that brings up
yeah, because that's actually where your language, your self language, germinates, is in that dark space, and that's where your inner voice, or my inner rebel, needs to speak to that dark,
Yeah.
to its face.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Jenny, do you I'm thinking you remember this, but when I had my last miscarriage in
Yes.
2020, Jenny was a huge support for me during that. Speak to the power of that connection, right? And you said to me, and I've carried this with me every day since, there is as much beauty in the sorrow as there is in the joy.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
so
that
true.
speaks to what you are saying,
Yeah, gosh, and
right now.
that is one thing that I would love my daughters to know, is that um yeah, that's that sorrow, that's where that holds, the sorrow holds the seed of your joy, of your greatest joys, really, because you kind of have to know that, so that you can
Mhm.
so that you can be that flower in the desert and produce that flower. Yeah, from
Mm.
nothing, from the dark, from the death. Yeah. Anyway,
Well, we have covered so much in hearing your
Mm.
relationship with your inner rebel, your wisdom and growth and how your art has flowed into that.
yeah.
That seemed like a really nice place to
Yeah.
end the first one.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Red Couch. We would love if you would head on over and subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. It helps us tremendously as we rebel against the status quo of disconnection. We need you. We appreciate you. You can also head on over to our website, redcouchrebels.com, to send us a note and explore your inner rebel with us on our online network. We'd love to see you there.